All right, hey, good evening, everyone. It is Tuesday, December 10th, 2019. It is Tuesday night, like I just said, and got choked up about. This is Hitting the Wall, and I am your host, Kyle Walker. Nobody in the live show as of yet, but I'm sure people have forgotten after we weren't on last week. But let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first thing I want to do right now is throw out a big thanks to Chantel, who was here 2 weeks ago. If you remember her episode, she was in the serving in the Air Force and came on and talked to us a little bit about just her life and her travels. I really enjoyed talking to her. And she was on, like I said, on 2 weeks ago while she was here for her Thanksgiving break. And so I know that she has made it back to Germany safe and sound. So again, thank you to her for coming on the show 2 weeks ago. I really appreciate it. Always nice to have a guest on the show, because it's just way better than listening to me all the time. So thanks to her. Just throwing out there, we are 2 weeks, if you can believe it, 2 weeks away from Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve is 2 weeks from tonight. So if you haven't started your Christmas shopping, there is like your warning. Oh my goodness, here it comes. So Christmas Eve is in 2 weeks. There won't be an episode on Christmas Eve. Next week, Joe is going to be on with us. And so we're going to have our last episode of season 1 and our last episode of 2019, our last episode before the holidays. That is all going to take place next Tuesday night in 1 week. So make sure you join us for that. And that is going to wrap up season 1. And then we will be back on January 7th, 2020. And that will be the start of season 2. So that'll be kind of cool. We have made it through the first season of this now rebranded new thing, Hitting the Wall. And so I think it's been a successful season. Of course, we want to hear your feedback. We want to hear what you thought, what you've liked about the change in the show, what you didn't like, what you want us to do differently. Any feedback that you guys want to give while we're on our little holiday break is always greatly appreciated. So please don't be shy. Throw it at us. And I'm more than happy to try and make some changes for you. So let's dive in. As you know, or as you saw, why am I suddenly coughing? Pardon me 1 second. Let me wet my whistle here. Okay, so as you might have seen, we did not do a show last week. Last week, there was no show on. I put on Facebook that there wasn't going to be a show on Tuesday. And so let's talk about why that was. Normally, I would say I was sorry for postponing, but in reality, I wasn't sorry at all about postponing last week's episode. This show, I preached over and over again about the value of good mental health. That is what's of utmost importance in this show. The show used to be just for divorced men. Then it was for divorced people. Then it was about relationships and single life. And then, no, overall, what's up, Mads? The man, the myth, the legend. Overall, this show is about good mental health. Is that fair to say? So last week, I was not in a good place mentally to do the show. And that's what we're going to talk about tonight. I guarantee you I will not make it through tonight's episode dry-eyed or without flubbering all over myself. You'll notice I'm not even wearing my glasses because I know I'm going to be wiping tears away at some point in time this evening. So, not sorry that we missed last week's show, because mental health is important. Tuesday afternoon last week, I learned about the death of someone who is very close to me, someone who I care about deeply, has passed away, stupid cancer. And so when I found out last Tuesday, the same day that we do the show, I was not in a place to do it. So I'm going to talk to you. I'm going to tell you about my friend Sarah, my dear friend Sarah. Sarah was a woman I met back in January of 2015 when I had just started my new job at the bank that I'm still currently working at. She was kind of the first person I met when I went to my new employer. She started off, she sat across the aisle from me. She was just on the other side of my cube. And she was really the first person who came over and said hello, introduced herself, welcomed me aboard. Because when I first started at my bank, I didn't even sit with my department. I was just in this random cube on a random row that happened to sit across from her. And so she took it upon herself to kind of be my host as I was starting down the process of working for this new bank. And you guys know how it is when you connect with a coworker, and when you have a coworker that you see every day, they become more than that. They become more than just a coworker. She became my friend. And so our friendship grew by leaps and bounds. You know, we all have these people, employees to friends, and then even eventually to the point, again, because my family is so small, I considered her family. Okay, I cared for her enough to consider her part of my family. And of course, it eventually came, the joke came along. She ended up being my work wife. Now, she was long time married. This was just a fun little title that we had at work, but she was my work wife. I'm sure a lot of people have had those as well. But Sarah she was a one of a kind soul. You know, she was a light that shined so bright at that bank that everyone took notice of her. Everyone loved her. Everyone just liked talking to her. She was just terminally happy is what she always was, even to the point that sometimes it got a little annoying. But she lit up every room. She was bubbly, and she had an infectious smile, and her laugh, which I can still hear going in my head. And she was just one of the top 5 kindest people that I've ever known. And so when I heard that she had passed, I felt like one of the better pieces of me died. I mean, it really did. And I was in the middle of a staff meeting, and that's because, you know, this is the bank that she previously had worked at. She had left a couple of years ago for a different opportunity, but, you know, they brought it up in the staff meeting. And so I'm sitting there, and I had no idea, and I just hear him say it, and there was nothing I could do. But of course, in my mind, all the darkness came up, all the dark places that I wanted to go, all the ways I wanted to escape, all the feelings that were rushing towards me. We've all been there before. But that's what was happening to me as I sat there, frozen, you know, just gripped with every emotion that came flooding into me. And again, in the middle of a staff meeting, and I just had to sit there and kind of listen to the business of the day, while inside I'm just panicking. I'm freaking out. I'm going crazy. And as soon as the meeting was over, I went to my cube and I grabbed my coat and I left. I walked out the front door, and I just kept walking. And I actually walked for miles. Down the road to a park, around the park. I mean, I did not want to sit there. And of course, we'll just say I had my emotions flying out of the corner of my eyes for that entire walk. So I know that while I was there, you know, in that moment, if you guys have heard the stages of grief, okay, the Kubler-Ross model, they have the 5 stages of grief. They're listed, and not in any particular order, but denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and then acceptance. And I hit 4 of those all in the process of that walk. And I'm not going to lie, I certainly have not reached acceptance by any point. I still am going up and down that list. The one that sticks out the most to me right now was the denial. I mean, I was absolutely in denial. I was saying, you know, there's no way. She was 35. You know, she had fought cancer before, but she beat it before, and it was not a thing. Maybe I didn't hear the name right. Maybe it was somebody else. Maybe she was sick. Maybe this was a false rumor. You know, I hadn't seen anything about it. I hadn't heard anything. You know, it could be wrong. You know, rumors start all the time. Celebrity death hoaxes, as they call them. So I was all in denial. And then, of course, the denial kind of wore off, and then it was anger. And it was, I mean, just anger like I don't normally feel, because I'm not an angry person. I'm really not. To the point that I was walking over this little suspension bridge in the park, and there, you know, the side of it is just this cast iron, you know, metal holding it up. And without even thinking, man, I took my right fist and I punched that metal, certainly causing more damage to my hand than to the bridge itself. The bridge was fine. My hand still hurts. But again, that was just the emotion and the anger just flying out of me in just that moment. Depression, I'd say, is where I'm at right now. Not going to lie. People have noticed I am not happy. I am not a happy camper right now. Very upset. And I don't think that's going away anytime soon. But things we talked about previously on this show, the biggest goal, especially for me right now, is to not let this depression lead me to doing stupid things or things that I might have previously done. I had a little shindig Saturday night. I let myself enjoy a couple adult beverages, but other than that, I've not touched the sauce. I'm staying as far away from that as I possibly can, because I know me, and I know that previously when I've had to deal with these terrible life tragedies, that is my go-to. And so I am doing my best. And even our buddy Joe here on the show, he absolutely kind of called me out on it, like, hey, rather than reach for the sauce, get a hold of him if that's what my need was. And so I can still say that I've been very good about that. And so then again, of course, the last one is acceptance, and I'm not there. Not even close. I have not accepted that cancer has taken away a beautiful 35-year-old woman who I love dearly, and I'm not going to accept that anytime soon. Like I said, these are in no particular order. It's not like you have to go from 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5. You can migrate all up and down that list, and that's kind of where I've been. And so the one thing, and this is how I'm trying to get out of where I'm stuck at. I'm trying to get out of some of these 5 stages. Is I think back to the last conversation that I had with Sarah, and it was maybe 2 months ago, 3 at the most, but it was mildly recently. And what was great was, during that conversation, I was fortunate enough to be able to tell her everything that I thought. She was having a rough time. Now, if she was already battling the newest bout of cancer, I didn't know about it, but I knew that she was down. I knew that things had her upset. And so I got to tell her everything I thought about her. And it's the stuff I told you. I got to tell her how I thought she had the most beautiful soul of anyone I'd met, and how she was one of the kindest people that I'd ever known. I was fortunate and blessed, really, to be able to tell her these things. And again, if she already knew that there was a problem with her health, she didn't tell me. And it sounds like she didn't tell a lot of people, even though she knew it was coming. And now that's where I got lucky. And I know we don't always have that. That does not always happen for everyone. You don't always get to luck out like that and be able to tell someone everything, in the last stages of their time. So I consider myself fortunate. But these 5 stages don't only pertain to death. Okay, they can accompany any loss, really. Any loss, the loss of a job. Anyone who's lost a job has gone through these. They've gone through the depression, and they've gone through the anger, and they've gone through bargaining. Oh, we didn't even talk about bargaining, but bargaining was another big step. And I know that when I was thinking about Sarah, the bargaining came up big time. And the bargaining for me was, okay, listen, she was a beautiful 35-year-old woman who offered so much. I am a near 40 double open heart surgery patient. Why me? Why couldn't it have been me and not her? And I understand that that's not an actual logical way of thinking about it, but I guarantee you that's where my mind went. It has brought it up many times. Like, I should have kicked out years ago when I had terrible repercussions in the hospital from open heart surgery. I would have gladly traded with her at that point. I feel like the world needs her a lot more than they need me. But again, that's one of the stages of grief. And I am grieving. I was grieving. Grieving is happening. And so that can also happen, like I said, with jobs. You can go through the stages of depression with a job: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And also in relationships, again, 10 years, I've lived the post-divorce life. You think I've not gone through my fair share of ending of dating relationships or serious relationships, or you can go all the way back to my marriage. I've dealt with these losses and grief over and over and over again. And these 5 stages of grief, they really they rear their ugly heads. The denial, the anger, bargaining not so much, but depression, big time. And then you eventually get to acceptance. And then of course the last one is marriage. And let's be really honest, folks, the holidays, where we are right now, my humble opinion, is the worst time to suffer a loss of any kind. This is the worst time in the year to suffer loss. And so, like, for example, all right, so I've had way too many deaths around the holidays. Let's be super honest. Okay, so in December, on December 3rd, I lost Sarah. And then a few years back in 2015, the day after Christmas was the day that my father died. I have suffered the loss during the holiday season, and it sucks. Pardon my language, but it really sucks. And then let's also go back to the end of my marriage. The first holiday season I spent post-divorce. If you ever wanted to see an actual living train wreck, then you should have seen me from about Thanksgiving to New Year's 2010. Because that train wreck you would not have been able to look away from. It was ugly. But again, it's that loss. It's the loss around the holiday season when, of course, everyone is pushing happy family and all the jewelry stores are telling you to buy the jewelry for your loved ones. And then, of course, I'm sitting there freshly divorced and I'm thinking, well, yeah, last year for Christmas, I got her a pair of diamond earrings. Where are you at now, jewelry store? And so that was something that really kind of ticked me off as well. So yeah, loss is never easy. Loss around the holidays is even worse. In my opinion, if you're a single person, if you're single from the ending of a relationship, if you're single from a divorce, or if you're even single from a death, okay, these are tough times. And I implore you not to suffer in silence. Don't suffer in silence. Don't suffer alone. And I'll tell you what you're thinking. I know exactly what you're thinking. You're thinking that, well, my situation, whether it be I'm out of a relationship, someone's passed away, or I'm divorced, I'm going to burden other people with my situation. Okay, because I'm the single guy, or I'm depressed, or I'm angry, or I'm grieving. My grief is going to somehow squash their good time, so I'm not going to bother other people with how I feel. I'm not going to try and put my presence on someone else because I feel this way. I know that's what you're thinking. That's exactly what you're doing. You're avoiding other people because of your situation, and you couldn't be more wrong in doing so. You need to reach out to the other people. You need the people who love you. You need the people who you trust. You need the people who can speak into your life and can help you get through these rather than avoiding these. Okay? I've been there. I know exactly how this works. I've done the suffering in silence, but you don't have to do that. Okay, remember a few weeks back when we talked about the monster in the mirror? Okay, this is where the monsters will come out. This is where the monsters will fight to be freed. While you're at your most vulnerable, while you're at your most upset, while you're isolating yourself because you don't want to be a burden to other people during the holidays, this is where the monsters come from. And if you don't reach out, and if you just stay within yourself, they're going to get you, and they're going to nibble on you, and they're going to devour you, and then there's going to be nothing of you left except for whatever they turn you into. They can turn you into a bitter, jaded alcoholic. They can turn you into even worse. This is when they come out. Don't suffer alone. Reach out to the people who love you. Do it. It's the holidays. Trust me, you're not a burden to them. They will welcome you to their table. They will welcome you to their Christmas tree, to their family functions, to going out and sitting at a bar and talking to you, whatever it needs to be. So please, for my sake, do that. Okay, so avoid the monsters. Okay, so during these holidays, stay strong. Don't suffer alone. Reach out to those you love, to those who love you, and to those who trust you. And so I'm going to end probably a little early tonight because, oddly enough, I'm amazed that I've even made it this far into it. This is going to be... Okay, here we go. Whew. I felt it coming up on that one. Oh, almost lost it. This is going to be from me to Sarah. And, cancer took her selfishly from me, which I do not agree with, from her family, from her husband, her friends, her coworkers, in this world in general. And so I'll tell everyone right now that the last time we spoke, like I said, I was fortunate enough to tell her exactly what I thought, how I felt. And that she had such a kind spirit and a beautiful soul. And like me, she would use self-deprecating humor. It's kind of that buffer. I do that all the time. People call me out on it. She would do the same thing. But we use that to hide our insecurities. But honestly, the world is darker without her. But, all right. One of the good things, not that there's really good things about cancer, but one of the benefits, I guess, is that this wasn't a surprise. It's not like where someone can just kick out and they're just gone. Apparently she knew that this was coming. And so what I'm going to try and do is read you the story that she wrote. She actually wrote this. It was in the program from her funeral. And so, working on it here. So I'm going to read this, and this is her words. These are not mine. This is direct quote from what she had put in her funeral program, and it's just called My Story. And I quote, "I just wanted to share with everyone I've enjoyed your friendship and fellowship. I know a lot of you will be shocked to find out for the last 7 years I've been fighting for my life. The key way that I was able to do this is because of my Lord and Savior, because my Lord and Savior was carrying me through it. I would love for you to someday join me with my Lord and Savior, where we can walk the golden streets next to the crystal sea. I want you to know," okay, hold on. "I want you to know I have, damn. I want you to know I have won this battle of cancer. It might not seem to you that I have won, but now I am in my eternal home." So, there she is. And so, I know this isn't the Walking with God show anymore, but still a great message. So that's why, even the day I found out, in the last 7 days since, I've never said goodbye. I've never gone and said, "Oh, goodbye, Sarah," because like the group Shinedown says, who I love dearly, it's never goodbye. It's just until next time.
Did you know that you could talk to Kyle when he records his shows? Tune in to the live recordings of Hitting the Wall on Facebook Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time and say hi.